In the deep sea, where even spotlights can't penetrate, there is an oil extraction company called Tian Industry that has managed to establish a massive drilling base in the Mariana Trench at a depth of 11,000 meters. However, as the drilling continued, strange events began to occur frequently, but the company, in its pursuit of profit, concealed all these truths. The protagonist, Nora, is an ordinary mechanic at the drilling base, which houses a total of 316 people. Working there can feel extremely oppressive due to the lack of sunlight. One day, while Nora was washing up, a loud noise suddenly came from the seabed. Driven by curiosity, Nora immediately ran to check and saw water droplets falling from the ceiling. As she wondered where the droplets came from, an explosion occurred in the dormitory area, the immense water pressure instantly deforming the room and killing many of her colleagues in their sleep. At the same time, the base's damage alert broadcasted, prompting Nora to run and call her colleagues to wake up and escape with her. But only John followed her. As Nora was about to close the hatch of the dormitory area, two colleagues ran out from the dormitory, pleading with her not to close the door. However, the speed of the water breaching was too fast, swallowing the two colleagues before they could make it halfway. Although Nora closed the hatch at the last moment, it was too late. The door was heavily impacted, and water began to seep into the cabin. Before Nora could react, the massive water pressure caused a secondary explosion in the safe cabin, sending Nora and John flying. When they awoke from the unconsciousness, the base's emergency broadcast had been triggered, instructing all staff to enter the escape pods immediately. Nora, still naively believing it was just an ordinary earthquake, called the control center for help, but no one responded. Moreover, the phone transmitted a monster's roar, which puzzled Nora and John, but they had no time to think further as escaping was the priority. The two then moved through the damaged base, fortunately finding a control room quickly. However, after some operations, Nora discovered that most of the escape pods were damaged in the earthquake. John, however, told Nora that he found the earthquake strange as he had heard legends about the Cthulhu sea monster in these waters and now worried that those legendary creatures might actually exist. At that moment, Nora had no interest in listening to John because she discovered that the submarine cable was broken, meaning they had completely lost contact with the outside world. Fortunately, Nora found a well-preserved escape pod not far from them. As they headed there, they found their colleague Paul trapped under a rock, fortunately uninjured, and the three continued on. However, as they walked, the collapsing base made the path narrower until they had to crawl through a crevice. With Nora being the smallest, she led the way, but as she crawled, a ghastly pale corpse suddenly appeared in front of her, startling her. She then discovered that the colleague had been crushed by a rock, meaning they needed to escape quickly before meeting the same fate. Luckily, they eventually reached the escape pod, only to find that all the escape boats had been used up, leaving only the captain sitting there desolately. It turned out the captain had given his own escape boat away, prepared to face death alone. Seeing more survivors, he gathered his spirits and began to console Nora. They then accidentally reached the communication center, where they found survivors Smith and Emily. However, before they could rejoice, they discovered that the base's cooling tower had broken down. In 30 minutes, the base's thermal core would overheat and explode, cooking everyone instantly. Now, with no escape boats and unable to contact the outside world, and with ongoing collapses, they were effectively trapped. Just when everyone fell into despair, the captain suddenly proposed that they could try their luck at the Roback base. 6 kilometers away. This meant they had to walk in high-pressure diving suits in the pitch-black seabed. Everyone thought this was impossible. Then John suggested why not go to the Sheephole drilling base located in the middle, which seemed much closer than Roback base. However, the captain said that the Sheephole base had been completely abandoned and there was nothing there. The captain then told everyone that they just needed to descend to the seabed and pass through an underwater tunnel to reach the transfer station, and from there, walk to Roback base, greatly reducing the distance they had to walk underwater. Even with a plan, walking in the pitch-black seabed was still extremely dangerous, so everyone was still hesitant. At that moment, Smith brought out the last communication sent by the drilling workers, which, besides their screams, seemed to also contain the roars of monsters, suggesting the accident was not as simple as they thought. What exactly did these drilling workers encounter? While everyone was still puzzled, an earthquake started again, shaking the base precariously and threatening imminent collapse. It was clear they had to move, so everyone donned their heavy diving gear. Once prepared, the 6 members of the squad started their descent with trepidation. But at 10,000 meters deep, any small error under the immense water pressure could be fatal. As the elevator slowly descended, everyone held their breath. When the elevator reached the cargo platform, unexpectedly, the doors failed to open. causing Paul to panic and repeatedly press the control button. Simultaneously, John's helmet began to crack, and as the cracks multiplied, everyone panicked. Just then, the elevator doors suddenly opened, and the rapid change in water pressure caused John to implode. Witnessing this, Nora was terrified beyond words, managing her fear only with deep breaths. Fortunately, the captain remained composed and guided everyone safely into the cargo lift. This cargo lift also served as a small rest station with ample oxygen. They then continued their descent in the lift. However, when the lift was just 200 meters from the seabed, they suddenly received a distress signal from an escape pod, unexpectedly present in that location. Could their previous colleagues have failed to escape? Paul and Smith immediately went to rescue the escape pod, but upon arrival, they found it crushed by the water pressure, with debris scattered everywhere. Oddly, the pod was covered in a large amount of slime. Soon, they found a colleague's body among the wires, similarly covered in slime. As the captain sensed danger and ordered Paul to retreat, Paul, ignoring the warnings, began to peel the slime off the body. In the next second, a creature burst out from the corpse. Luckily, Paul reacted quickly and killed the monster. When Paul and Smith brought the creature back to the lift, Emily realized it was an unknown deep-sea organism. However, they were in the deep sea, devoid of sunlight and food, where theoretically no life should survive. This indicated only one possibility. During drilling, the workers had pierced through the underground lair of these creatures, which might be part of a hydrothermal vent with its own independent ecosystem. Just as Emily was about to delve further into her analysis, the lift lost power, followed by a shutdown of all equipment. Nora was about to start repairs when a monstrous roar came from outside the lift, startling everyone. Just as they were at a loss, the creature apparently had already climbed on top of the lift, causing significant noise. They suddenly realized a grave issue. Perhaps the monster's mother was coming to retrieve its child. Then, a loud bang sounded from outside. Something wanted to come in. They noticed the inner door of the lift had not been closed, so Paul cautiously shut it. But then everyone realized that besides the door, there were windows. As they all turned towards the windows, the monster directly hit them, fortunately without breaking the glass. While they continued observing the monster, the next second, the base exploded above them, the shockwave instantly pushing the lift downward. The team quickly put on their diving suits and opened all hatches. After the lift crashed to the seabed, everyone hurriedly escaped from the lift, stumbling along but ultimately, under the captain's calm leadership, safely entering the seabed tunnel. They then boarded a freight train in the tunnel, heading toward the transfer station. However, part of the route ahead was submerged by seawater, forcing them to abandon the vehicle and continue on foot. Just then, strange noises came from above the tunnel. Apparently, the monster had followed them. With no other choice, they continued on. As they walked, they encountered a rock blocking their path. Nora decided to scout ahead first, donning her deep diving gear and swimming under the rock. She discovered the tunnel on the other side was spacious, so she called everyone to quickly swim over. Just as Paul, who was nearly across, got dragged back by a tremendous force. The monster had entered through cracks in the tunnel and had grabbed Paul. Although his teammates struggled to pull him back, the monster's strength was overwhelming, tearing off Paul's leg. Paul spat blood and soon died, plunging everyone into panic and a frantic escape. Fortunately, the remaining members ran fast enough to safely reach the transfer station. However, they were shocked to find that a 6,000-ton drill had been forcibly extracted from the seabed. Were there even bigger monsters out there? But pondering this was futile. They needed to quickly reach Roback Base to survive. After changing equipment, the four proceeded across the seabed. At this moment, they were completely exposed and at any moment could be attacked by monsters. As expected, after walking a while, Nora sensed danger and started shining her flashlight around. She briefly saw a monster before it disappeared into the darkness. The monster seemed to be playing games with them, appearing briefly before taunting them. Eventually, it got bored and directly dragged Smith into a cave. The team rushed into the cave and managed to pull Smith out, but the enraged monster then grabbed both the captain and Nora and dragged them to a platform, eventually freeing itself from the rope. Another monster then approached Nora and attacked her, biting her helmet. Fortunately, the helmet was sturdy enough to protect her. The captain, wielding a knife, stabbed the monster repeatedly until it, unable to bear the pain, fled. However, as it fled, it snagged a line attached to the captain, pulling him and Nora upward rapidly, the immense pressure differential causing their high-pressure diving suits to alarm, signaling imminent danger. To prevent Nora from being dragged further, the captain cut the rope connecting them. Within moments, he was pulled away by the monster. Shortly after, the captain's diving suit exploded, and Nora fell back to the seabed, now completely lost. She wandered aimlessly on the seabed, overwhelmed by a profound sense of loneliness and fear. Suddenly, a monster appeared right in front of her, knocking her to the ground. Fortunately, the monster was in hibernation and did not notice Nora. Lucky to find a cable while getting up, she followed it, hoping it would lead to the base. At the end of the cable, she discovered the long-abandoned sheephole drilling base, which, as previously discussed, had oxygen but no escape pods, making it a dead end for survival. However, Nora found a new diving suit and a flare gun there, reigniting her hope. After studying the map from sheephole to Roback, Nora set off again and soon picked up a signal from Emily on the diving suit's public channel. Following the signal, she actually found her colleagues. Unfortunately, Smith had suffered a broken leg, and together, they struggled to progress across the seabed. Fortunately, they encountered no further attacks from monsters and finally saw light ahead. Realizing they were near the much-anticipated Roback base, they hurriedly quickened their pace. Soon, they reached the bridge leading to Roback. But Nora sensed a chilling aura and immediately halted Emily. On closer inspection, they discovered the bridge was covered with hibernating monsters, stunning them. Yet, with Roback base just ahead and safety just beyond the bridge, they had no choice but to continue. Nora and Emily turned off their suit lights and bravely walked across the bridge. They tread carefully, fearing any noise might awaken the sleeping monsters. Just as they were about to clear the area, Emily's diving suit alarm sounded. She had depleted her oxygen supply while dragging Smith. The sharp alarm awakened a nearby monster, which immediately attacked Nora. Seeing no escape, Nora urged Emily to take Smith and run while she was grabbed by the monster, then subjected to a brutal beating. Fortunately, her high-pressure diving suit was tough, and she managed to shoot the monster in the stomach with a flare, exploding it from the inside and escaping from its belly. However, the noise awakened the other hibernating monsters, all turning their menacing gaze towards Nora. In a desperate move, she reloaded and fired just as a large group of monsters prepared to attack her. A massive roar then scattered all the smaller creatures, revealing they were all attached to a gigantic tentacle of a super monster lurking near Roback base. The super monster noticed Nora and with a gentle pinch of its tentacle, burst the bridge at Roback base. The resulting explosion propelled Nora into the base, breaking her diving suit. Just as she was about to suffocate, Emily arrived to help, saving Nora once more. They realized hiding in the base was not a long-term solution as the giant monster could destroy it at any moment. Thus, they hurried towards the escape pods. Soon, Nora found the pods and discovered there were exactly 3 available. However, one was completely damaged, which she did not disclose to the others, instead letting Smith use one to escape first. As she was about to send Emily off, Emily realized Nora's pod was broken and refused to leave alone. Without wasting words, Nora knocked Emily unconscious and pushed her into the pod, leaving herself alone in the base. Now resigned to her fate, Nora prepared to accept death when the launching of the escape pods disturbed the super monster, causing it to unleash numerous smaller monsters in pursuit of the pods. Nora, deciding to end things, activated the self-destruct sequence of Roback base. After ensuring the escape pod was clear of the blast range, she detonated the base, obliterating the monsters in a massive explosion. In the end, only Emily and Smith were rescued, while the colleagues who had used the escape pods earlier were never found, presumably intercepted and killed by the monsters. In the aftermath, Tian Industry concealed the discovery of the monsters at the seabed and even planned to rebuild a new base on the original site, showing that human lives were of little concern to these profit-driven businessmen.